Garry Kasparov outsmarts the Deep Blue AI by tying up its queen, its rooks, and its bishop in the back rank. So this is a game from 1996 when Kasparov played the Deep Blue, which is a computer program. And in those days, the programs were not that much evolved, and the game just progresses. And there are many inaccuracies by the computer of that time. So I'm just showing you that inaccuracy is the better move with a green arrow on the board. So this is the semi-slab defense squad variation, which is normally played against Queen's Gambit, Queen's Pawn games, so variations or anything like that. So the b3 allows to fianchet this bishop, and then you can bring your rook to c1. And after the knight to c6, both the players, the Kasparov and the computer, keeps the pressure on the central, not going for the capture right away. And after the bishop goes to b2, Kasparov, who's playing with the white pieces, its pawn is captured, and the pawn captures back, and the bishop comes to e7, getting ready to castle on the king side by Deep Blue. So the rook now comes to c1 on the semi-open c file, and castles on the king side Deep Blue as of the ninth move, and bishop to d3 by Kasparov, developing his light square bishop and also allowing him to castle on the king side as well. So after the bishop to d7 move, Kasparov also castles on the king side. So knight now goes to h5 actually. So it was a inaccuracy or a mistake. I don't still don't understand the point of this move. It's better to bring your queen over here, connect both the rooks, and also or maybe some other move. You can just bring your queen over here as well. So now the rook comes to e1 here. As you can see, both of Kasparov's rooks are already semi-active as of the 12th move, whereas Deep Blue's rooks are not active at all. And the knight now comes to f4. That was the intent of this knight move, but Kasparov just simply brings his bishop back to b1. And these two powerful bishops are now looking at the king of Deep Blue and is a long-term threat. So bishop to d6 now, but it was better to bring a rook to c8 over here. But the bishop move was played, and the pawn push to g3 kicks this knight away, and the knight goes to g6 now. So knight to e5 by Kasparov, and now the rook comes to c8, and the knight captures that particular bishop, the light square bishop, and the queen captures back. And the next knight jumps to f3, the d2 knight jumps to f3, and the bishop goes to b4, attacking the rook, and the rook goes to e3 into the third rank, which could possibly develop the rook on this particular c file if it's required. And the rook to d8 is now played, trying to create a battery on that particular d file. And once this pawn is get exchanged, you can target this weak central pawn on that d file. That might be the idea, but it was better to bring your bishop over here to e7. But Kasparov then pushes for h4, looking to launch an attack on the king side, and the knight jumps to e7, and the bishop move was still better, because once a3 is played, now you'll have to move your bishop back here to a5, and this allows the further pushing of the b4 pawn. And once the bishop moves back, Kasparov just pushes the pawn to c5, creating this nice little pawn structure, pass pawn structure, which is quite a dangerous piece. And because of the knight is here, you can just simply push this pawn up if you want to, and the knight will be again going back, and your pieces will be disoriented basically. So the rook now goes to e8, and it was better to push this pawn to a6, because it will prevent this pawn push later on in the game. So q now goes to d3, and the pawn push of g6 cuts off this checkmate threat on this bishop queen battery over here. So the rook now goes back to e2, and the knight jumps to f5, creating a threat on the particular weak backward pawn. And the bishop goes to c3, and after that h5 by Deep Blue, and b5 now by Kasparov is hitting that knight. So the knight goes to e7, and now the bishop goes back to d2, reorienting it into this particular outpost which was created because of this pawn push. And now this also you could bring your bishop over here. Once this knight if you move this knight, you can just bring your bishop over here, create a threat on it. So the king moves actually prevent that from moving. And after that, a4 is pushed, protecting that pawn, relieving the queen from the support, from the defense of this particular pawn on b5. So rook now comes back to a8, but this pawn push of a6 was again preferred, and a5. Kasparov continues pushing his pawns, and after now a6 is played, which allows Kasparov to push b6, create attacking the bishop, forcing it to retrieve into the back rank, cutting off the connection between the rooks, and also making this rook here basically inactive and stuck and out of the game basically. So the bishop now comes to c2 now, and knight jumps to c6, and after that the bishop goes to a4, pinning this knight, and the rook now gets away from e7, and the bishop to c3 is played, protecting that particular backward pawn, and knight move to e5 is played basically. So here there is an discovered attack on the queen, but the knight is already attacking the Kasparov's queen as well. So if you take here, you can take back here as well, and there's no other force checks to create any huge havocs. But Kasparov just captures the knight, and this particular bishop is captured by the queen, and the knight jump to d4 happens, attacking the knight and also preventing this particular pawn from being pushed. And after the knight captures the knight, the queen captures the knight back, looking for a queen exchange. Deep Blue didn't want for a queen exchange and went back to d7, and bishop goes to d2, eyeing that outpost over here. So the rook now went back to e8. So bishop goes there nevertheless, and eyeing for keeping it here, protecting this pawn, and also attacking the king. So rook now goes to c8, and the bishop goes to f6 with a check, and the king moves away to h7, and after that the pawn push to c6 happened, which basically attacks the queen. So the pawn captures the pawn, and instead of going and capturing that particular pawn, you cannot capture it because it's protected, it's a sacrifice. So the queen goes to c5, and after that king to h6 is played, but it was better to bring your king to g8 over here. So rook now goes to b2 here, threatening to push this pawn and forking both these rooks in the back rank. So the only way to protect is to bring your queen to b7, and after that rook comes to b4, and as you can see, this bishop, there's no squares for this bishop to go, and this rook is also stuck, there's no squares for it. The queen cannot move. If the queen moves without this move is being removed, it will be forked, and even this rook have only two squares here, and the other squares are covered by the bishop and the queen. So Kasparov can simply launch a counterattack on the king side using his bishop and the rooks, and the game will be pretty much over. So because of that, Deep Blue resigned from as of this position, and Kasparov won this match against the machine in 1996. So it's interesting to note that these days the machines are far advanced, and the kind of accuracies that way, it will be pretty impossible for a player to win against a machine in the current circumstances, in the kind of depth level and how AI and computer systems have progressed, evolving the chess game as well. So thanks very much for watching. We'll be back with more such videos.